He dated this guy for a minute. 6 years, I think. He has her eyes tattooed across his chest. These two had a child together. And he is stumbling out of the darkness to be like, you know what, I've never been in love. I don't even really know what that's like. I mean, I think you could be in lust, but love? I don't know. I might have thought I was. I wasn't. I mean, he like makes a caveat. I mean, I love her because she's like my kid's mom, but, you know, in love in that traditional sense, I don't think so. What does love look like for him? You date someone for 6 years, you have a kid, you get a tattoo, but I didn't love him. Don't get it twisted. Weirdos. Hello, how are you? Welcome to my channel. My name is Cheer Denise, and today we have so much for you in the Friday News Roundup, starting with Harry. Prince Harry has come out to meet with some British families. He's collected them all to his bosom, and he would like to share in their grief with this strange, affected tone and these deranged hand gestures. What is he even trying to communicate here?
You should be here. So, thank you for doing everything that you've done. Thank you for telling your stories over and over again. Truth, justice, and accountability. Those are the three things that will come from this.
Now, the thing that bothers me the most about this is that he's constantly putting himself in front of these legitimately grieving families who've lost their children to internet bullying. And he always wants to act like he understands that he is, if not in the exact same place as them, he gets how traumatic it can be when a loved one is almost driven to the brink. And it bothers me that Harry is always telling this strange story about how Meghan has experienced so much online bullying. But when he describes the online bullying that she's experienced, it does not even begin to line up with reality. This is the problem with Harry. He seems to always be able to scent what the problem is without ever actually being able to articulate or tell the true story. Like, he dances around the problem, but he never actually gets to what the problem is. So he's not wrong. Meghan is bullied online. Relentlessly. Inexhaustibly. But he doesn't seem to understand the source of that. So he goes, my wife's life's been made a misery by all the tabloids. They're always coming after her. And you know why? It's because of the colour of her skin. Nobody thought she was good enough to be my wife. Nobody thought she was good enough to be in the royal family. They drove us out with pitchforks because she's brown. It's like, what are you talking about, Harry, you nut? People don't like this girl because she lies out of every side of her mouth. She's an entitled little bitch. She comes trotting over to the royal family. 60 separate times I had to tell her no about various things. She's constantly acting like people owed her something, having a little hissy fit about which crown she got to wear to her wedding. Girl, you get to wear a crown with the royal family? Shut your trap and put on what they give you. Just entitled. Finally throws up her hands. I can't stand it, Harry. And then she leaves to go spew some lies on the other side of the Atlantic. And for me, what bothers me is that he can't seem to sense that's why people don't like her. So he comes up with this boneheaded narrative cobbled together by some back of the internet tweet of some bonehead who maybe did say something racist. But that's not why people don't like her. Like, get up with the times. There are not any two people in Hollywood who are so behind the times as Harry and Meghan. And you could tell because Meghan has this ridiculous, weird personality that she cultivated when she was like maybe 18 years old, and she hasn't neglected it. She thinks that she's in some kind of rom-com and that all of us want to laugh our way and seal clap our way into her next love story. And she's constantly trying to sell us this narrative like, oh, I didn't even know who Harry was. I didn't know he was a prince. You know, I just fell ass backwards into the most beautiful life of all time. But then, you know, because I'm black. And I'm just like, are you awake and alive in your own life? Like, do you even know what's going on in your own life, Meghan? Is that why you can't make any choices? Are you in a coma? Is something else animating your corpse? Like, you don't seem like you understand what's going on. But then neither does Harry, because he wants to keep coming at my wife's life made a misery. About what? well, because everyone's racist. No, it's not. If her life has been made a misery, it's because she can't stop telling lies and we can't stop calling her on them. Because we want to humble this person who would come before us and try to spin some ridiculous narrative about how she was used and abused in this circumstance and nobody loved her here. And then, she just had to rise up and become this feminist queen who makes jam. It's like, we don't like you, Meghan, because you're a liar. And Harry, if we come after your wife, it's for a real legitimate reason. Why don't you find out why? Instead of making up some kind of crazy talk. And the truth is that if he wanted to come out as a frustrated spouse of a person who he feels like is chronically criticized, I believe that would be in his right to come out and say, you know what, I'm really freaking sick of this. My wife can't do anything. He needs to say, everybody criticizes everything that she does, and I feel like it's because they think she's not good enough to have married me. Say a whole number of things that we'd probably still find ridiculous, but at least they would be on point with what's actually happening, what the trending conversation really is around Meghan. People don't like her because she's a liar. Why are you spending time whining and going to court and wringing your hands about the Sun when, as we've discussed many's the time, the BBC is the one that he should direct his ire towards, and his brother is doing that. His brother has an investigation going, but he doesn't really want to lay any legitimate claims down because that might require some work on his part. So it's just way easier to say that the whole media comes after his wife because, she's black. And it's just way easier for him to go after some ratty little tabloid than it would be for him to bestir himself and go after the BBC along with his powerful brother. Can't seem to be bothered with that. So he tries to continue to speak for the people. These wounded people. This garbage internet is always coming after everyone I love. They would have come after my mum if she'd lived to see the day. Came after all these families and their children. And the children are dead. And if I'm not careful, Meghan will be dead too. It's like, Harry, these people have suffered legitimate loss. You are over here with all kinds of crazy high drama, when in reality, there just are real things he could discuss that are close to what he's talking about, but not exactly what he's talking about. Here he is, circling around the bush. He just can't quite figure out where the bush is, but he's close, but he just can't quite figure it out. He's just eternally exhausting to me. With his little affected behaviors, his strange tone that he always deploys when he wants to talk about people who are suffering. I mean, who can forget the UN speech? Interestingly, if you go back to find that UN speech, they've cut out the part where he says, how many of us have been suffering? How many of us know eternal suffering? Or whatever the line was. It's just like, he's just such a Debbie Downer, a real Eeyore if there ever was one. And here he is trying to talk to this family, trying to relate to them, but he can't even relate to his own life. He's got no idea what happened yesterday. Okay, let's keep going. We need a little update on that Norwegian cheating scandal. I mean, there's not a whole lot to be said, except for the fact that, as we discussed earlier in this week, that Norwegian Olympian, the biathlete, he came out when he won the bronze and decided to use that moment to try to gain back the love of the woman he cheated on. He'd been dating this girl 6 months ago. 3 months into the relationship, he cheated. And now he told her and she wasn't happy about it. And she didn't want to stay with him. And so he was like an absolute mess, blubbering and crying. And, I had the golden life. And then, I messed up. And I just wish that she was here. And I just have to make my declaration of love. And she's like, well, I mean, that's nice and all, but it's hard to forgive. We don't even know what kind of cheating this was. Like, what kind of cheating was it? Was it like one and done? Was it like he's talking to her on the side? Was it an emotional thing? Like, who even knows? We don't know. I don't even want to know as much as I do know. But the real scandal here isn't the fact that he was a blubbering fool and crying and carrying on and just, humiliating himself forever and a day. Because nobody will ever forget this moment at these Olympics. This is going to be a real standout. Remember that time. Every single Olympics after this, it's always going to be, remember the time when, And so that it's terrible. But I think the real crime here is that his teammate had won the gold. And they interviewed bronze winner first. And they heard his sad tale. And then it completely deflated what the gold winner was going to say because they'd had a teammate who had passed away fairly recently. And so the gold winner wanted to use that time to eulogize his friendship and, this teammate who'd meant so much to the team who wasn't there to participate. But of course, who cares about that? I mean, we should all care way more about that in the beautiful tribute he had planned. But we're all still reeling from the fact that this guy just had a complete and total mental breakdown in front of us. So then bronze winner's got to come out and be like, I told you I'm not doing good this week. I told you I'll say anything. I'll do anything. I'm sorry. I'm going to buy that guy dinner because I wrecked his, acceptance of his gold medal. Just try going to bed at night and being that guy. I mean, when you lay down in bed at night and like suddenly you'll remember something really dumb you did or said, and it's just like, oh gosh, I don't want to think about that, And now this guy's got to go to bed at night. I mean, it's not even just like one dumb thing you said. It's like a series of dumb things that now everyone's talking about. And then you had to come back out and apologize for being dumb. If anything, at least you're doing pretty good. Because I don't think any one of you has experienced humiliation, self-inflicted on that level. So at least it puts your own temporary suffering into perspective. Okay, let's talk about this Nancy Guthrie case because I don't know about you, but I'm sick of it. And I'm sick of it just because we're not discovering anything, and every day we're like talking about the same things over and over and over again and looking at the same video over and over and over. I don't understand how people like Megyn Kelly are getting 3 hours a day on this stuff. Like, she's got podcasts that are like going 2 and 3 hours, mostly all about this. But when I tell you that the internet sleuths are really coming out and doing their thing of late, and not in a good way, it just is so frustrating to me because when there isn't enough information, the conspiracy theorists, they feel like they can't even breathe if there's not something that they're worked up about. So the latest conspiracy was that the video with Savannah and her 2 siblings, the last one that they put out, the latest thing was that Savannah had 6 fingers in that video, and everyone's like, oh, wait a second, we know what this is, AI, you guys. When was the last time you knew Savannah had 6 fingers? Just asking questions, but if you ask me, that's weird. And it's like, what is the matter with you dimwit? She clearly is holding her sister's hand in one of hers and her brother's hand in the other. Yeah, there's a couple extra fingers there. They belong to her sister. It's just like, I can't live in Clown Town with these people. So there are certainly things to be discussed, but it's like one of those things where like I'm losing steam on it because there's just too many people wanting to talk about it ad nauseum, and because of the lack of conversation, we're asking dumb questions and we're coming to lame conclusions. So the latest is that there is this new video that was floating around on social media. It had come off of the like next door neighbor Nest Cam website. And on the very same night that Nancy was abducted, there's a video from 5 miles away from her house of a guy in suspiciously similar clothes to the guy that was playing the hokey pokey and turning himself around and picking weeds. This guy was behind somebody's house, looked like he was trying to get over a fence or something. He had 2 backpacks, but he's very similarly dressed. And it's not clear what he's trying to do at this gate. I don't know what he's up to, but he was goofing off around that gate and then kind of like scuttled off. And people are like, what are the chances of somebody who looks this similar doing at the back of people's houses? Like, what's going on? That video was floating around for a while, and then it was verified by the FBI as being a legitimate video. So it's not AI, really is some guy, but we don't really know if it's the same guy. They look similar. Some people were trying to say that he was way thinner than the other guy. I mean, I don't know. It's not like these cameras are like high resolution, It could be distortion that would make him look thicker in one video and thinner in the other, but I never really thought he looked like he was so fat. Megyn Kelly's like, look at this beer belly, look at this big guy. And I'm like, he's not exactly Jabba the Hutt. So I don't know. To me, the build wasn't so dramatically different. The clothes look really similar. So what are the chances of somebody at the same time, around the same time of night, prowling around in people's houses, dressed really similarly? Like, what are the chances of this? So I don't know. Another big thing is that they found some gloves, black rubber gloves that look really similar to the ones that he was wearing when he was trying to cover up the door cam. And, black gloves on the side of a road that's already covered in trash may or may not be something, but it follows along a route that would have been potentially used by the kidnapper when he was leaving with Nancy. So it just seems to me that if I was a criminal, I would not be disposing of the gloves on the side of the road, like minutes down the road. Does that not seem like Crazyville to you? What are we throwing that out of the car for? Like, wouldn't you keep that with you until you could dispose of it in a better location than on the route that you're leaving. But again, this is the man who thought to use weeds to cover up the camera. So I wouldn't say he's the greatest genius known to man. At the same time, we don't really understand what it is that these investigators are up to, because they find the gloves on the route away from Nancy's house. But then in between the location of the house and having found the gloves, at like 2:40 in the morning, a couple nights ago, they decided they were going to investigate a certain patch of dirt in the dark with flashlights. And as has been expressed on other programs, what the heck? Why are we looking at night for things? What do we think we're going to find in the cover of darkness that we couldn't find in the broad daylight? Like, what are they looking for? I can't think of one thing that they could be looking for out in the dirt. If I'm looking for remains, I need every ray of God's good sun to find what it is I'm looking for. I'm not looking by moonlight and by starlight and by this little headlamp I have. That just seems bogus to me. But I don't understand a lot of things that are going on in this investigation. And the word that's coming out is that the sheriff is really stiff-arming the FBI and not wanting to share certain details. Now, it is not a federal case. They've sent federal law enforcement, but this does belong to the sheriff's department. So I guess he wouldn't have to work with the FBI if he didn't want to. I think the problem is that there's real political alignment here that is, I think, coming into play, or could be coming into play. The sheriff here is a Democrat. The FBI is obviously under the leadership of a Republican administration. So I don't know if there could possibly be something like that, but that seems really dumb. I mean, at this point, can we please find the lady? And let me just tell you this much right now, okay? I'm just going to say it to you straight. If this woman is found alive, then this was the greatest distraction that was created for you and me so that we would talk about something other than the Epstein files. There is no possible way at this point that, as though I do not want this to be the case, but if she was truly on medication that was like life or death, and she is, here we are coming up to the second weekend after her disappearance, if she comes back alive, you're going to have to make that make sense. I would love for her to be alive, but it would also in my mind be like, what in the world was this? It would just feel like it was a massive cover-up, a distraction from what we should be talking about. And there's been lots of stories, I feel like, this week that are trying to distract us from the fact that the Epstein files were released, and now that they are having congressional hearings where they're questioning people, they want us not looking at what these people are saying and doing. The other big distraction this week, I feel like, was the Super Bowl drama. Okay, I am not going to do a segment on this Super Bowl foolishness, mostly because I think it's like the greatest distraction known to man. Can I understand everybody's arguments from every side? Yeah, I get what everybody's saying about it. You have the people who are like, well, we're Americans and we don't understand why we need to have a halftime show at our iconic Super Bowl in a separate language. That doesn't make any sense to me. And my response to that is, you can thank your lucky stars it wasn't in English. I mean, do you want to hear about this guy and all of his girlfriends and how he's this big player who's sleeping with everybody? Do you want to hear about this guy, snorting cocaine and carrying on in a variety of sexual ways? Thank God it wasn't a separate language. At least the kids didn't have to hear that. But then you have the people who are like, so what exactly is the problem with us celebrating one of the niche cultures of the American experience? Why is that so wrong? And I don't understand wanting to die on either one of these hills. There's always drama about the halftime show. Either the person that you think should have been playing wasn't playing, or you don't think that the performance were good, or the songs were dumb, or the choreography was lame. People always are going to complain about it no matter what. And I understand all of the political overt messages that were going on. Everybody wanted to grab that show and twist it into something that they could discuss from their political perspective. And to me, as a person who's 50% Puerto Rican, whose grandparents came over here in the 1950s, when I hear about my dad talk about when his family came over, they were on one side of the pendulum swing, where they just wanted to be American so bad that it was like, son, you're going to learn English and that's that. And you're going to pretend that you didn't come from Puerto Rico. You're going to try to assimilate as much as you can. And that's why I don't speak Spanish, because my dad had grown up feeling almost ashamed of where they came from and wanting just to be American. Just be American. Just wear your blue jeans and eat your apple pie and just be American. And so it wasn't until I was older that in high school where he began to want to embrace his Puerto Rican heritage. But I didn't really grow up with a lot of that, because from where my dad was and where the cultural moment was then, it was like, you want to be American. You don't want to be anything but American. If you got over here, you want to embrace that. Swing over, the pendulum is like completely swung over now. And I feel like there's this sense that everybody feels that their singular identity or their singular culture has to be celebrated all the time. And that if you suggest that some kind of assimilation is necessary for a country to function as a whole, like you're trying to whitewash them or whatever. And I don't think that that is the case either. I think there's got to be some happy medium where we don't denigrate what we came from, and we're proud of the culture that we came from and whatever beautiful things that our specific culture can offer. But at the same time, I think that we do have to come to a proper conclusion that people don't have to bow down to my identity, that I can still be fully proud of who I am without everybody needing to participate in my culture. Like, I can do what I want to happily celebrate my Hispanic heritage if I choose to, but I don't feel like you're denying me. You have to participate in my cultural moment or else you're saying my culture is not good. I don't really think that's the case. But I just think that the long drawn out conversation about the Super Bowl was just a distraction, once again, from the hot mess that is the Epstein situation. Okay. And with, more and more things are coming out that are continuing to confirm what we know, but we also are getting more and more names of people who are in positions of power who they better be bearing some brutal consequences for what they've done. One person this week who I am so pleased to see being dragged, just because this kind of lying has no place in a functioning society. Howard Lutnick is being exposed on a grand level because he did an interview a while back where he was trying to distance himself from Epstein. And he claims that he went over to Epstein's house one time. He was invited because Epstein was his neighbor. And so Epstein invited him to come over, and he and his wife went over and saw a massage table in the house. And this immediately raised alarm bells. I mean, who gets massages except for perverts, So this is how he tells the story and ends by saying that it was a one and done for him. Once he figured out what kind of guy that was, he never had anything to do with it. And this is the way he tells the tale.
Opens the doors, and there's a massage table in the middle of the room.
Ooh.
And candles all around and stuff. So I ask very insightful, cutting questions. I say to him, massage table in the middle of your house? How often do you have a massage? And he says, every day. And then he gets weirdly close to me.
Ooh.
And he says, and the right kind of massage.
Ooh.
Now, my wife is standing here. So she looks at me and I look at her and we say, I'm sorry, we have to go. And we left. And in the 6 or 8 steps it takes to get from his house to my house, my wife and I decided that I will never be in the room with that disgusting person ever again.
Really?
So I was never in the room with him socially, for business, or for even philanthropy. If that guy was there, I wasn't going because he's gross.
Oh.
He gave me a gift.
Yes.
Of a voice.
Okay. Fast forward to him being questioned now that we have letters that expose that in 2005, he says that he knew who Epstein was, so he didn't want anything to do with Epstein. But then in 2012, after we realized that Epstein was a convicted pedophile and had been convicted for soliciting the prostitution of a minor, that happened in 2008. In 2012, suddenly Howard Lutnick just, kind of forgot about that massage table that really had disrupted his soul. And he writes a letter where he's making arrangements to bring himself and another family, his children, the other family's children, and their nannies to go lunch with Epstein on Epstein's Island. What? And what disturbs me the most about this email is that he tells what children are coming and gives the ages of the children, though not their names. Why would this pervert need to know the age of the children? This man was convicted for soliciting the prostitution of a minor. And you, 4 years after that has been established, are now giving him the ages of the children who will be visiting him, but not their names, because God, you don't need that. What? Explain it to me. It doesn't make sense. So he's in this hearing and he is fumbling through trying to explain himself about how he didn't even know Epstein. I mean, like, in all the years that he was aware of that guy, he maybe only sent him like 10 emails.
Of these millions and millions of documents, there may be 10 emails connecting me with him, probably about 10 emails connecting me with him over a 14-year period. I did not have any relationship with him. I barely had anything to do with that person.
You guys, 10 emails is an enormous amount of emails to be sending to somebody who you claimed you didn't have any relationship with because he was such a disgusting person. You wouldn't even be in the same room with him or go to any events that he was there, and that it was just a real blessing that it was just a one and done that you found out who he was. But then you have 10 emails exchanged with this pervert, many after you knew him to be a pervert. Apparently Epstein was trying to get in with this guy's nanny. I didn't know anything about that. The hell you didn't. You brought the nanny with you to his island. Anyway, this is how he blubbers through this hearing.
Look, I looked through the millions of documents for my name, just like everybody else.
There's also a reference to the fact that Epstein had expressed an interest in meeting your nanny. Do you know whether Jeffrey Epstein ever met with your nanny?
No, I saw that. I had no idea what that was about. It had nothing to do with me,
No
as far as I
interaction
know.
of it.
I mean, is that the way an innocent person describes their innocence? Back to the video of him talking about the massage table. People get massages all the time, and it's totally fine. And he says that Epstein was kind of creepy about the massages when he asked, why do you have this massage table in the middle of your living room? Which I think is a rude question anyway, because if somebody has a massage table out, wouldn't you just be like, I guess they get massages? Would you? Nobody would be like, this is suspicious. I better start asking some real questions. Why do you have a massage table in the middle of your living room? That seems like a really strange thing to do. It's like, wouldn't you just be like, interesting? Wouldn't you just like assume that it was like a sports massage or something? People get massages. It doesn't have to be some kind of kooky, weird ritual, So when I heard that story initially, I thought, I don't believe you. I don't believe you because the way you're trying to like insist that you wouldn't have anything to do with this person, an innocent person who's not involved in a lot of like dark, nasty, mysterious, weird behavior would just assume it was a massage table and not feel that that was the linchpin when they finally understood that they shouldn't be around this person because of the massage table. But you know what this reminded me of? It reminded me of a clip that I saw of Oprah Winfrey talking about how there have been a lot of rumors, and I am going to do a deep dive on Oprah. Hopefully I can get it done next week, where she has been implicated multiple times with Epstein because not only did her personal guru have huge ties to Epstein, but then people who helped her start her very mysterious African orphanage where all the girls were kidnapped inexplicably, that guy had serious ties to Epstein. And so naturally, people are like, you know what, Oprah, you've been suspect for a while, you and your big connection to Harvey Weinstein. You've been suspect for a hot minute now. And so there have been rumors that she is involved in, the kidnapping of the kids or the selling of children with some of these elites. And we didn't need to talk about that. But she was talking in this one clip about how, she'd heard that there were some rumors about her being in some kind of cabal having to do with selling children into slavery. Like, so weird. But she describes her emotion upon hearing that as sad. It makes me sad. Watch her.
And so to hear people say things that are just crazy, like I'm a part of a cabal and there's a whole conspiracy with children, that stuff makes me sad. It makes me sad more than anything that people would believe it. And, it's taken me a long time to get to the point that I'm not, I don't feel hurt by it. I don't feel personally hurt by it.
You guys, if somebody wanted to come out and say that I had anything to do with selling children into sex slavery, I would not be sad about that. I'd be irate. If I found out that there were rumors going around me that I was involved in some kind of child sex trafficking ring and that I had built up an orphanage so that I could then sell those girls into slavery, but say it was a kidnapping. The way I would go after folks, I mean, I would be out taking names and stomping throats. Because I don't just feel sad. I would be filled with rage if lies like that were going on around about me. I would be like, I've just kind of got like grown past caring about what people say. Like, it's like you just have to kind of mature out of that kind of thing. Sometimes people are going to say things, I've just been in this business so long, I just can't, I can't be bothered about everything. I could be real bothered about that. Especially in this climate when there's so many people who really were up to no good. I would not want anybody to assume that I had anything to do with that. There's just too much evidence of real people acting in shocking ways. But my point is, these people who are actually guilty don't know how the innocent speak. We're not blown away by a massage table, and we certainly feel worse than sad if somebody is wanting to connect us to trafficking children. But they're over here trying to cosplay and pretend. I think an innocent person would probably feel sad about that. And massage tables, that's not a good thing, right? we don't do massage. Okay. Okay, I got my talking points. I was questioning the massage table. That's interesting because I was sad that somebody said that I was part of a child trafficking. So, do you guys know anything about how to behave? But no, they have just gone so far into the dark side that trying to figure out what are the innocent people doing over there. I don't know. They might say something like this. They don't know what's going on. Okay. On to just two more things. These will be short. The saga of Blake and Justin continues on. Some of these stories you guys are just so tired out. So tired of talking about it. But I did think this was hilarious. They both went to court like yesterday or the day before. And wouldn't you know it, these two oddballs are dressed alike. The fact that these two would both show up in a color palette that just isn't like what you would immediately expect. This olive green and sort of light salmon pink. It's not the thing I would be like, well, those colors are on trend. Or how did this happen? I ask you. Really and truly. I mean, it's just hilarious at this point. It's like, what is going on? Is everything around me just a circus? Is everything just like an orchestrated circus? What are the chances of the two of them wearing both those colors? But, of course, Blake couldn't let a moment slip past her when the eyes were on her and she didn't make sure to use it as product placement. I mean, has her husband taught her anything? She used the entire tour about a movie of a woman getting slapped around to remind you that she's got some products. And would you like her alcoholic beverages? Both delicious. So we knew that anytime the cameras are on her, she's going to try to sell something. She's in court. I don't know, is it taking too long? I'm not sure. But she had her chauffeur go back to her house and pick up her expensive mahjong set and bring it back to court. I'm confused why we're playing mahjong in court. But she's all the day long in her stories talking about mahjong and how she's got this cute set of mahjong tiles. And, everything she does in her stories is product placement. But the fact that you would take this time when you're in court to be like, hey, mahjong, that shocks me because I don't know what we're doing with mahjong, again, in court. We're trying to have a settlement here. This isn't exactly the time to break out the tiles. Weirdos. And then finally a story that is just making the rounds. Everyone's like, what the heck? And I'm just like, indicative of Hollywood. Gigi Hadid was dating this guy named, what's his name? Zayn Malik? I don't know who these people are. I mean, I kind of know who Gigi is, but like other than that, not really. But she dated this guy for a minute. 6 years, I think. He has her eyes tattooed across his chest. These two had a child together. And he is stumbling out of the darkness to be like, you know what? I've never been in love. I don't even really know what that's like. I mean, I think it could be in lust, but love? I don't know. I might have thought I was. I wasn't. And people are like, wow, that is cold-blooded. And I don't know what else to assume but the fact that this guy is trying to get back at Gigi or something, because this is just like a really mean, twisted, weird thing to say about the mother of your child. I mean, he like makes a caveat. I mean, I love her because she's like my kid's mom, but, in love in that traditional sense, I don't think so. What does love look like for him if it doesn't include having a child with somebody, dating them for 6 years, and getting their eyes tattooed across their chest? Like, I would like to know the heights to which he thinks that love would be. What would he do for a woman that he was in love with? Maybe is what a better way of asking that question. You date someone for 6 years, you have a kid, you get a tattoo, but I didn't love him. Don't get it twisted. Weirdos. Anyway, I hope you have somebody in your life who loves you more than Zayn Malik loved Gigi. And I hope that if you are doing anything for Valentine's Day, it's fun. I'm not. My husband's out of town on yet another trip. This is what happens when your husband works for the Secret Service. But I hope you guys have a great Valentine's Day, and I will see you guys on Monday. It is President's Day, but I'm still going to have a show. So I'll see you then. Maybe something interesting will happen, and we can actually have a good show. I was not loving today's show, but thank you guys for staying to the bitter end. I can always count on you. All right, I'll see you soon. Bye.